Welcome into episode 5 of the Resident Evil series. In this video, we're going to go over every possible killer from the Resident Evil franchise that could come into DBD as the Chapter 20 killer. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where we're going to go over the top 5 most likely killers from the list. How's it going, guys? My name is Schmuckles. If you guys want me to do a survivor version of this video, let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. I also stream on Twitch on Wednesday and Sunday nights. The link is in the description below. In the last video in this series, we talked about an absolutely insane Chapter 20 Resident Evil theory. If you haven't seen that video, I'd highly recommend it. Before we jump into the content, DBD Leaks posted that 2 new DLCs have been added to Steam's database. They said one of them is obviously the Resident Evil chapter. The second one is most likely an RE cosmetic pack available sometime after the chapter release. The exact same thing happened for the Silent Hill chapter. Guys, this chapter is getting closer and closer to dropping. Let's go over the possibilities for the new killer. This is an official spoiler alert. We're going to be going over all the Resident Evil games, including Resident Evil Village at the very end. We'll start with Resident Evil 1. There's an original from 1996 and the remake from 2002. From these games, we could see the original Tyrant, which we talked about in the last video. Albert Wesker. Wesker is an accomplished virologist notorious for his work with groups affiliated with the bioweapons black market. He's considered to be one of the main antagonists in the Resident Evil franchise. There's also Lisa Trevor. She's an American superhuman who was mutated from the exposure to a virus strain. She lived up in the mountains. She's almost unkillable due to her fierce regenerative abilities given to her by the G virus. She has enhanced strength and unlimited stamina. These are the 3 possible killers from Resident Evil 1. From Resident Evil 2, there's also the original from 1998 and the remake from 2019. From these games, we could see a Licker, Mr. X, and William Birkin. We've already covered all these villains in the last video. We could also see a Super Tyrant. These Tyrants are an excessive mutation in the original Tyrant model. Mr. X is one of these Tyrant models, the T00. There's a whole gallery of possible Tyrants here. They could be seen as cosmetics, or if Behavior doesn't want to go with Nemesis or Mr. X, they could go with a generic Tyrant if Capcom doesn't want to share Nemesis or Mr. X. We also see Tyrants in Resident Evil 3. There's Resident Evil 3 from 1999 and the remake from 2020. The main villain here is Nemesis, which we talked about in one of the previous videos. In Resident Evil 0 from 2002, we could also see the Queen Leech. The Queen Leech is created by Dr. James Marcus through experimentation with the T-virus. The Leech was dumped in a nearby treatment plant with Dr. Marcus's corpse. The Queen Leech has the ability to change its shape into Mr. Marcus after it ate his whole body. Resident Evil 0 also has a proto-tyrant model, T001. This tyrant was created in the Arclay lab for military use. From Resident Evil 4, made in 2005, Ramon Salazar is one of the antagonists. He's a nobleman from Spain and is one of the strangest villains in all of the Resident Evil games. Vitoris Mendez is a Catholic priest from Spain with superhuman strength. He has one hell of a mutated form with long fingernails, sharp talons, limbs bursting from his back, and a freaky looking torso. There's also the Chainsaw Man, really similar looking to Bubba and Billy, but I thought I'd mention him. He's a violent chainsaw welding villager. Resident Evil 4 also has Vertigo. Vertigo is one of Ramon Salazar's bodyguards. Vertigo can perform 5 unique attacks, which could really be well integrated into a unique power ability in DBD. Osmond Sadler, or Lord Sadler, is the leader of a religious cult and paramilitary organization. He's the main antagonist of Resident Evil 4. In Resident Evil 5 from 2009, Ricardo Irving is a major antagonist. In his mutated form, Irving is able to swim fast and attack with large clawed tentacles. In Resident Evil 5, Albert Wesker was provided with a mutant T-virus strain to mutate his body. This mutation gives him strength and stamina. In Resident Evil 6 from 2012, Carla is the main antagonist. She's a genius researcher who founded the C-virus and the test subject used to create the Ada Wong clone. I'm not sure if she could be a horror killer like we see in DBD, but I just thought I'd mention her. In Resident Evil 7 Biohazard from 2017, we have the Baker family. Before the arrival of Evelyn and their subsequent infection, the Baker family were mostly shown to be generally loving and caring for one another, even towards strangers in need. Lucas was a bit antisocial and Joe lived an independent lifestyle. After being infected and taken over by Eveline, most of the Baker family turned into highly sadistic killers whose nature became blatantly violent, deranged, and cannibalistic. Eveline was a genetically modified human and bioweapon. She was rescued by Jack Baker in Louisiana and taken in by the Bakers. She ended up infecting the Bakers one by one, turning them into her new family. It took her about 2 weeks to keep the Bakers fully under her control though, with them lapsing back into their normal states with a deep suspicion of Eveline but unable to remember why. The new Resident Evil Village is set to release May 7th this month. In this demo that's available, there's a lot of hype over Lady Dimitrescu. For 70 years between the 1950s and the 2020s, she was tied to a series of violent homicides. People suspected she's so tall because she was infected by a virus virus that caused her tallness. She's a fan favorite from the Resident Evil Village demo. Now that we've gone over every major possible killer from the Resident Evil franchise, we're going to rank the top 5 on how likely they are to come into DBD. Number 5 is Jack Baker. He's a terrifying psychopath with powers of regeneration and superhuman strength as a result of that sinister mutation that took hold of him. Number 4 is Albert Wesker. He appears somewhat human early on, but in Resident Evil 5 he takes on a monstrous form. He's one of the biggest villains in all of the Resident Evil games, so he's earned number 4 on this list. Number 3 is William Birkin. He's really high on this list because of his horrifying appearance in the Resident Evil 2 remake. He's got huge Hulk-like features with extra long arms and deadly claws. Number 2 is Mr. X. He's tall, terrifying, and an unstoppable force in the Resident Evil 2 remake. Number 1 is Nemesis. Nemesis is smart, powerful, and a towering titan from the Tyrant Project. He makes the most sense to come into the game as the new killer for Chapter 20, based on the chapter theory that we explored in the last video. If you haven't checked out that video, you can click on the title above if you're interested. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see more content like this. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.